In a small fishing village in the Philippines, whispers of the Aswang have terrified generations. A terrifying monster that comes out at night to feed on human flesh. The locals call her Mankukulam. By day she looks like an ordinary woman. She goes about her business quietly, never speaks much, has sunken eyes and an odd smile. But when the sun sets, her true form emerges. She flies through the night sky, swooping low over the rooftops to snatch unsuspecting victims. And those who are unfortunate enough to encounter her speak of razor-sharp claws, gnashing fangs, and a thirst for blood that can only be quenched by the life essence of the living. It's said that she is immortal, having lived for hundreds or perhaps even thousands of years. Yet despite her seemingly endless lifespan, she remains trapped in her monstrous form, condemned to an existence of darkness and despair. For those villagers, Mankukulam represents everything they fear most: the unknown, the uncontrollable, and the truly evil. It is no wonder then that her legend continues to live on in their nightmares. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode where today we will be reading from our suggestions. This one was suggested by our Discord server, so let's begin. The story begins in a small town in the Philippines, where there was a rumor that there were vampires around. People would disappear, and then some of them would return looking very healthy. Because of this, people believed that the vampires must have fed on them and then regurgitated them back out. They called these vampires Aswang. One day a young girl named Aling saw a pale old woman who had sunken cheeks. She had long fingers and looked like she hadn't bathed in a while. Many people in the city avoided the woman, but Aling didn't know why. So she went up to the woman and introduced herself. The two soon became friends, and Aling started visiting the woman every day. One day Aling noticed that the old woman had a big cut on her arm. Aling was concerned, so she asked the woman what had happened. The old woman replied that she had been cursed by an Aswang. An Aswang is a monster in Filipino folklore that feeds on the blood of family members. They usually target pregnant women and children, and they can take many forms, including that of a dog, a cat, a pig, or a human. Sometimes they even disguise themselves as humans and trick their victims into letting them inside their homes. Aling thought that the old woman was just making up the story because she had cut herself while cooking. One day, Aling came to visit the old woman, but she wasn't home. Aling knocked on the door, but there was no reply. She opened the door and went inside and found the old woman lying dead on the floor. Beside her was a small child holding a bloody meat cleaver. Aling ran out of the house screaming, and soon the whole village gathered outside the woman's house. They were shocked to find out that she had been killed, but they were even more surprised to hear that it was the child who had done it. According to the villagers, the child had been acting strange for the past few days, and they had even seen him talking to himself. They didn't think much of it at the time, but now they realized that he must have been communicating with his mother, the Aswang. The villagers were afraid to touch the dead woman's body, believing that if they did, they would also become infected with the curse. They decided to burn her body instead. As the flames engulfed the house, Aling could have sworn she saw the dead woman's face contort into a smile. From that day forward, Aling never forgot the horrifying experience. She couldn't understand why the Aswang had chosen to possess the old woman, or why she had allowed herself to be burned alive. She spent the rest of her life in the village telling everyone she met about the dangers of trusting strangers and the importance of staying away from those who are different. The villagers listened to her warnings, but they soon forgot about them. After all, how could they have been expected to remember something so crazy? Even years later, when the sightings of missing persons began again, they didn't think anything of it. They just assumed that the Aswang had come back for more victims. Years passed and the village grew. New houses were built and new families moved in. But the legend of the Aswang continued to live on in the minds of the villagers. No one knew where it would strike next, but everyone was afraid of what might happen. Then one day, a young woman named Leah moved to the village with her family. She was a beautiful woman with long flowing hair and sparkling eyes. She was friendly with everyone and quickly made lots of friends. But there was one person in the village who didn't like her. It was the village elder, a bitter old man who had seen better days. He had always been suspicious of outsiders, and he didn't trust Lee at all. One day, Lee went to the market to buy some food. She was walking through the crowded stalls when she heard a commotion. She stopped to watch as the villagers surrounded a young boy, accusing him of being an Aswang. Leah didn't know what to make of it, so she asked the village elder what was going on. The elder leaned close to her and whispered, "That boy is an Aswang. He's been draining the blood of his family members and selling it to witches." Leah couldn't believe what she was hearing, but the elder insisted that it was true. He told her that the boy's parents had disappeared a few months ago, and that the boy was the only one left in the family. He had been acting strange ever since, and the villagers had finally caught him in the act of draining the blood of a young girl. Leah felt sorry for the boy. She couldn't imagine what it must be like to live with such a dark secret. She approached the villagers and asked them to give the boy a chance. She didn't know why he had done what he had done, but she was sure that there was a reason. The villagers didn't listen to her. They dragged the boy outside the village and beat him until he was dead. As Leah watched on in horror, she realized that the villagers were just as cruel and heartless as the Aswangs they feared so much. From that day on, she vowed to do whatever she could to protect the innocent from their wrath. But she soon learned that it wasn't easy. The villagers were becoming increasingly paranoid and suspicious of each other. Every time someone went missing, they blamed Leah, saying that she had used her magic to take them away. She tried to defend herself, but no one listened to her. They had already made up their minds that she was a witch. Leah was heartbroken. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but the villagers wouldn't let her explain herself. They chased her out of the village, and she was forced to wander the forest alone, knowing that she could never go back home. Then one day, Leah came across a small cottage in the woods. She knocked on the door and a kind old woman opened it. The old woman took pity on Leah and invited her in for tea. Leah explained her situation and the old woman listened patiently. When she was finished, the old woman said, "I understand why you're here. You want me to help you get revenge on the villagers." Leah nodded, and the old woman smiled. "Well, then you've come to the right place," she said. "I am the most powerful witch in the forest, and I will help you destroy those villagers." Leah was overjoyed. Finally, someone who understood her pain. She agreed to help the old woman carry out her plan, and together they set about collecting the ingredients they would need for the ritual. Meanwhile, back in the village, the people were celebrating. They had gotten rid of Leah, and now they could finally live in peace. But they were wrong, because as Leah and the old woman were gathering the last of their ingredients, the old woman suddenly turned to Leah and said, "You know, I never thought I'd find a student as eager as you. Would you like to learn real magic?" Leah was confused. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Why are we doing this?" The old woman smiled. "Because I am an Aswang," she said simply. And with that, she lunged at Leah, sinking her fangs deep into her neck. And that is our creepypasta. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe.